All right, Dan, here we are. We are the Varsity Voices, and we're here with another one of our, I think it's one of our listeners' favorite episodes, Dan, and that's our Prognosticus episode where we pick our winners for the upcoming games. Do you agree with that? That it's one of our listeners' favorite episodes?
Seems to be one of the most responded to, listened to, active listenership episodes that we do all the time, Joe.
It does, and you and
we
I
create
both,
buzz. We create a lot of buzz with it.
We do create a buzz. We create a hoot, right? A hoot.
Yes.
Because if you've if you've looked at our image of the Prognosticus, it is a very muscular owl, right? Is that how you would describe it, Dan?
Yes, always muscular. We have
always got to be muscular.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do we our marketing department kind of created the Prognosticus, but we did have some help with we put in what we described what it should look like or what it did, and we got some help from marketing, we got some help from AI. So it is a 2024 represented logo and creature.
Yeah, so I think, at some point, maybe not this year, maybe next year, Dan, we'll have some T-shirts or hats or people can buy, that have got the Prognosticus on them, and I think they'll wear them proudly, like we will. Don't you think?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Either that or clean their car.
Right. Well, maybe we should also get some towels then.
And chamois, yes.
Chamois. Yeah, absolutely. Because although, Dan, the Prognosticus weighs in with you and I every week.
Right.
And last week, both of us went 9-3, okay, in our predictions. This week, or this past week, you went 10-1, and I went 9-2.
Nice.
How about that?
How about that?
Yeah.
There we go.
So something is working. Something is working. Something is right.
He speaks to us,
He does speak to us.
And however it happens, how you believe he speaks to you is some way, and same with me. So whatever it is, his communication method is working.
It is working.
Yeah. So I call on him for a little help we record these on Wednesdays, every Wednesday morning throughout the day. He gets back to me in fits and spurts. So
fits and spurts. The little hoots.
It's little hoots, and I never know when it's going to happen. I might be in a meeting, taking the garbage out, whatever. It strikes me. Yes.
Yeah. And for me, since I hear him as the old Italian guy, I have to actually turn him off or somehow turn the volume down over the course of the day because he keeps talking and talking and
continuously.
Talking. Continuously. And it's at some point, I'm just like, that's enough. I can't hear anymore.
I think I lucked out on that one.
You did.
Yes. Mine swoops in, gives me his feelings, and takes off.
Yeah. All right. I get it. I'm gonna see if I can talk to my Prognosticus voice, Dan, and see if we can do something like that where I don't have to tune him out every 12 minutes.
Yeah. Right? Maybe if you make him some sort of meatball dinner, keep him quiet for a while.
Yeah. All right. I can do that.
All right. Well, gosh, we're back in the divisions this week, Joe.
So is it interdivision, intra-division, or
in division?
In division.
Inter,
right.
I guess maybe inter would be, inter would not, right? Inter is between.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
In division games. Yeah. So it is.
We have some really good games. Let's go with that, Dan.
Yeah. Yep. Always. The conference is definitely living up to its billing, living up to what we thought it was going to be. Exciting games. We start to see some playoff, teams. Several teams have a chance to become playoff eligible this week. They're the teams maybe you thought of, maybe some you didn't, but that'll be fun to watch as teams become playoff eligible or playoff. Yeah, I guess eligible is the right word, but
Yeah, I
they're
think it is.
essentially in. And if they get to that fifth win.
And we've got one team already, Dan,
Yep,
who's
and St.
playoff
Lawrence is
eligible.
already in, so that's congratulations to them. I know they've got bigger goals, but uh, to be in, in the minimum amount of weeks, that's all you can ask for. So congrats to St. Lawrence.
Yeah, congrats to St. Lawrence. And like you mentioned, we've got several teams that are right now at 4 wins. So they're knocking on the door. We'll talk about them a little bit as we go forward here. And, in my opinion, Dan, we've got a couple of teams that are have got their backs against the wall too, don't you
It is
think?
definitely the start of backs against the wall week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You are telling your team this is a playoff game. So this is I think I heard one of the players, I don't know if it was from Loyola, someone was saying every week is a state championship game. So
Yeah.
that's how some of these teams have to look at this, because they're playing for their playoff lives, or the math starts to really work against them. So interesting. So let's see who you pick, Joe, or who we pick, and I have a feeling we're gonna differ on a bunch this week. Maybe
You
I could
think
be
so?
wrong. Yeah,
All
we
right. Yeah.
we
All
don't
right.
really confer, but you never know.
Yeah,
We have
that's what that's
got a
yeah.
good vibe.
And that's why we go through this process, Dan, because it's not
Yes,
just automatic.
right.
You and I, we've got different thoughts, different feelings on some of the different games or teams, and like we said earlier, the prognosticus weighs in a bit, and it could be
Hmm.
different for you and me. So that's
Yeah,
why we go through this process, and
and we're starting to get fans weighing in. They want to know who we're going to pick.
they do,
Yeah,
they do.
before they're looking for inside information or pre-pod information,
Yes,
which is a no. We're not allowing that.
yeah,
We'll take some information here and there if people want to share, but we take some of that, we take most of that stuff with a grain of salt.
yes, we do, and but we always encourage people to weigh in with us in whatever way they feel they like to, Dan,
It
whether
is
it's
fun for sure.
whether it's a comment, whether it's an email, whether it's some other way. We encourage it to all our listeners to weigh in with us, and any comments, please feel free to send them to us on social media or Varsity Voices 312 at gmail.com.
Yeah, and they may not know it, Joe, but they make our day.
They do.
They really do. I mean, maybe that says more about the state of our lives.
It might.
but we get excited when people comment. So keep them coming.
Yeah, we like it. We're huge fans of the Chicago Catholic League and high school football, and we know our listeners are too. So, let's go back and forth. Comment, send us messages. We're really happy to get them, and we're happy to respond to them as well. But
All right.
Dan, let's start right up at the top. I know we do this most of the time, but it's a good way to go through the games. Got some really good games coming up in week 6 here. First one is Brother Rice and Mount Carmel. So Brother Rice, after a really tough start and some really tough losses, they get a win last week. They're now 2-3. They get their win over St. Patrick pretty convincingly, 48-0. Mount Carmel continues on their roll, Dan, 4-1 after they beat a good Benet team 48-13 last week. It's this is going to be a good game. I think this is at Brother Rice, but it'll be interesting to me to see if Brother Rice can build on that win last week that they had, Dan, after some tough losses.
Yeah, and Brother Rice offensively, I think when we started this first few weeks, we were talking about them, as a defense, and that seemed to be, where a lot of their, maybe more, that might not be right either. Christian Pierce is kind of their headliner. Now they seem to get they go as CJ Gray goes, so he's gotten better and better and better. And you could see that steady improvement along with the receiving core and Tyler Lofton, at running back, continue to get him a bunch of touches. Can they match the firepower of Jack Elliott, Daniel Taylor, Quentin Burrell? I don't know. I feel like Mount Carmel could be one of the better offensive teams they've had in a while. I know they've been really good on both sides of the ball, but they really seem and Jack Elliott. Sometimes it feels like he can beat you even if you don't have any other players on offense.
Right. Yeah.
He's been that good. So Joe, I'm gonna continue to go with the Caravan here. Even though it's at Brother Rice. Brother Rice is one of those backs against the wall teams. My pick this week is for Mount Carmel.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, Dan. And I think you mentioned, there's always players that make a difference in every game. And, Jack Elliott seems to do that in every game that he plays. He's really having an outstanding season. He's the leader of this team, the leader of the offense. I think I read today, Dan, that he's accounted for 22 touchdowns all by himself, either rushing or passing. Outstanding play this year. Passing and running the ball as well. So I'm going to go with Mount Carmel too here in this game, Dan. Although I've got my fingers crossed for Brother Rice. I know after this game they've got Notre Dame, and then they play St. Laurence and then St. Ignatius. So even if after this game they're 2-4, they've still got a path to get to those 5 wins, right? So
yeah. But talk paths, yeah. So they definitely are one of those teams that because 2 and 3, gosh, and they could so easily be 4 and 1. But yeah, they're gonna be one to watch. Not much room to work with the remainder of their schedule. So even though their backs are against the wall, I still think Mount Carmel is too much. Maybe the best team in the entire conference this year.
Yep. I agree with you there, Dan. All right. So let's go to another Blue Division game here, inner division in St. Ignatius and Loyola. So St. Ignatius now 3-2 with their win over St. Viator last week. Ignatius, I don't know if this is quietly or not, but they're averaging over 35 points per game, Dan, and we know they do the majority of that rushing the ball. Robbie Connor and Liam Hines are running backs, as well as Jack Wanzung, their quarterback. They've got a really potent offense, especially a ground game. Let's see, Loyola 3-2. They beat DePaul Prep last week fairly easily. Loyola too, averaging over 35 points per game as well. And since Fitzgerald has come back from that injury that he had, he's made a real difference for Loyola as we knew he would. But this is going to be a good game. It's at Ignatius. What do you think about this matchup, Dan?
I'm gonna go with Loyola in this. I feel like Loyola's has kind of hit their stride. I think after a couple of weeks, tough season's opener, Fitzgerald gets hurt. They come back, lose a tough one in that first night game to St. Francis, but I think they've hit their stride. We know Ignatius is going to try and control the ball. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, Joe.
Yeah.
But we know Ignatius is going to try and control the football, and I believe it's going to be really close. I think this is a close game. I don't know that I would say that picking Loyola is picking necessarily the runaway favorite, but I like where they're at. I feel like they're turning into that team that everyone kind of thought they were going to be to start the year. So my pick's for Loyola.
Okay. Well, I like Ignatius in this game, Dan, so I think we're going to differ on this one. I think Ignatius is really kind of hitting their stride here. And you hit on one of the keys to this game that I think is going to be important, and that is Ignatius controlling the ball and keeping the ball kind of away from that Loyola offense. And I think they're going to be effective at doing that. It's at home for them, which I think may make a bit of a difference in this game, since I agree it might be close. But I'm going to pick Ignatius in this game, Dan, over Loyola.
All right. Are you marking these down? You're the mark them down guy. Okay.
I am. I'm a mark them down guy on my loose leaf paper.
All right. You always keep score when we golf. So you drive and keep score, and I'm just there for a little
that's key for me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I like to keep score, and I like to have a pencil with an eraser.
Of course you have to. It's a must. It's a must.
All right. So we got that game. Okay. Let's go to the green division. So we've got St. Rita at home against Naz, Dan. St. Rita 4-1, Naz 4-1. So one of these teams is going to punch their playoff ticket after this game. St. Rita had a pretty easy game last week. They beat Notre Dame 42-0. Naz was in a real nail biter, with Joliet Catholic, but they come out with a 16-13 win over Joliet Catholic. This one, I have a hard time with this game, Dan, for some reason.
Me too, Joe. I think I've changed 3 times since we've started the podcast.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What are you seeing as far as, are you thinking this offense, versus offense, or offense versus defense, or defenses are going to, win this game? Where are you at on this one?
I think Naz, it's funny, for a highly ranked team to start the year, everyone was saying, is this year Naz starts better? And they obviously they have. I feel like they're getting better, and on both sides of the ball, and they're a team that has they've kind of shown and leaned on their experience a little bit in some big close games. And this game, by the way, I put a star next to. It's one of the fun games to watch this weekend. One of the top games, I think, in the Catholic League, and more interesting as far as storylines. St. Rita is getting better too. I love Nick Herman. I love how he runs. I think that can be Nick Herman and Logan Malachek. Those are the 2 X factors for me. I know they're both stars on the team, but how they perform against these high level defenses, with great players at every level, is going to be really important. I think if Nick Herman struggles running the football, I think St. Rita will struggle, and Naz is going to win. If Logan Malachek can be really effective and can get big plays to his wide receivers, then I think that might have a factor. I love the Justin Buckner thing at the Wildcat formation QB. I don't know how much they did it last week, but so I'm going around and around, kind of talking about. I'm going to go with Naz, Joe. I'm going to pick Nazareth. It's been one of the harder games, if not the hardest one to pick this week.
Yeah,
I've gone back and forth. So what do you think?
I've had a hard time with this too. I think, you mentioned some of the star players, right, on both teams. You've got Herman for Rita. You've got Logan Malachek at quarterback for Naz. And I think if those kind of star players kind of cross each other out, so to speak, I then look to the kind of the next players who are up, right, and who's going to make a difference in this game. And from that standpoint, I think Naz may have a bit more firepower, especially in offense, to kind of put them over the top. And I think that's going to be the case this week as well. So I'm going to pick Nazareth over Rita in this game, Dan.
Okay. I thought we might differ on that one, but that's interesting, and certainly a reasonable pick.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yes.
Okay. Next game in the green division is IC and St. Francis. IC 2-3 now, with a loss last week to Marist. Tough loss. Good game, 34-27. St. Francis, on the other hand, 3-2. they also lost in a last second touchdown by Providence last week. And one of the things that I've kind of thought about with this game, Dan, is just IC's season so far over the first 5 games, and it's been kind of fits and starts. They had some teams who withdrew or forfeit, and they had to find other games, and then they had a forfeit and they had a week off, and I just feel like things haven't gone as smoothly for IC as maybe they would have hoped. For things to start off this year. So I don't know. I feel like that has some kind of bearing on this game to me, Dan.
Yeah, I can't figure IC out either. When you look at their schedule, they start 2-0. They've lost 3 in a row, Joe. I mean, and
right.
And you could argue they've played some of their, you played their best football last week in giving up 34 points. They've got some studs defensively, from Foley Calcagno, a 2-way player, Tom Hulak, Notre Dame commit. So they have got a lot of studs all over the field, but they have been difficult to figure out. And I don't know if it's like you said, because their season feels like it's a little disjointed, but you could say the same thing for St. Francis. I've kind of felt the same way about them. I felt like they've been, getting better and better, and they have a little streak going too. So they're started 3-0 and have lost their last 2.
Right.
So 2 teams that are, both have a little bit of a losing streak going. So another really good game. I'm picking St. Francis in this one, Joe, because
okay.
I just feel like they have been more consistent. So that's why they get my pick. That counts for a lot with me. And I think some of those disjointed seasons can end up being the theme of the entire season as you go on. That when coaches are talking amongst each other in the off season and saying, I never felt like our season really got going. They also had a bunch of injuries early on. And so, that's something to really pay attention to at this point in the season. But I think St. Francis is starting to get it really humming offensively. So I think they're gonna put up some points and they win this game at IC.
Okay. Yeah, I actually think that IC is maybe starting to put it together after that disjointed start that we both talked about. And I was encouraged by seeing them scoring 27 points last week against Marist. I feel like maybe they're starting to come into their stride here, and hopefully, or I think that's going to continue. They're way too talented for it not to continue, in my opinion. So we're going to differ on this one, Dan. I'm going to pick IC in this game over St. Francis.
All right. Okay.
All right.
I like when we differ. Very reasonable pick, Joe.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Dan. Yeah. But look at us differing a lot more than we usually do. Let's
this is going to be like a separation week, right?
It is going to be a separation week.
Yeah, it's like PGA Saturday. It's separation Saturdays, but we might have that this week. So
yeah, we'll see.
So we'll see. As we're only two divisions in, Joe. So we've got a long way to go.
I know we do, and let's go to the next division, Dan. That's the Orange Division, and it's Marist and Providence this week. This game is at Marist. Marist comes in 4-1, so they're another team who can punch their playoff ticket, so to speak. Providence 3-2. After their kind of last second win last week over St. Francis. We just talked about Marist and the IC game. Marist, close win, tough win against IC last week. I'm going to go right to my pick here, Dan.
Okay.
All right. And then you can weigh in on this, but I like Marist in this game. I think they're fairly evenly matched, but I still feel like Providence's offense is, not quite hitting full stride yet. And I like the way Marist is playing on both sides of the ball. So I'm going with Marist in this game, Dan.
All right. And, this is probably, I find this interesting because we talk a lot about rivalries, and I think this is probably a bigger rivalry than we may be giving it credit for. I guess we're talking about it now, but I think it's a big game for these schools. I think there's probably some kids that have played against one another for several years down in the southwest suburbs, and so I think that it's a big game. I always look at games and wonder. I wonder if X team is going to come out flat, whatever. I don't think that'll be the case. Big game for Providence. We always say we can look ahead at their schedule. Their schedule's not easy at all. So I know that they want to stack. Marist has more opportunities, obviously, to get to 5, but they're again thinking much bigger than that. We've said since day one, in my opinion, Marist is the toughest place to play. It is a true home field advantage, similar to what you'd get in college or the NFL. They just have that type of a field and that atmosphere. And for that reason, I'm going with Marist.
All right. So we're in agreement there, Dan. Both picking Marist over Providence. And the other orange division game is Notre Dame and Joliet Catholic, Dan. Notre Dame 2-3. Fairly lopsided loss to St. Rita last week, 42-0. Joliet Catholic 3-2. Tough loss for them to Nazareth, 16-13. The one thing that's key to me in this game, Dan, is that I love Notre Dame's defense, even though last week they had a tough game, but they just have not been able to score any points.
No.
And I'm just when you look at them and try and predict what they're going to be able to do against a really tough Joliet Catholic defense, I just don't think they're going to be able to put many points on the board.
Yeah, it's not a great matchup for Notre Dame. I think the way they want to play plays into Joliet Catholic's hands. I think Joliet Catholic likes to play the type of game that Notre Dame wants to play. I think Joliet Catholic is really good defensively. This is a game where they can highlight their size, and the advantage that they'll have, and really be a tackle-to-tackle type game for both teams. I know Notre Dame wants to try and get the ball outside a little more, but I think the way the matchup is, I think it really favors Joliet Catholic. So my pick is for Joliet Catholic in this game.
Yeah, and I think the one thing Notre Dame has going for it in this game, and their defense, is pretty good against the run, and that's what Joliet Catholic likes to do, obviously. But I don't think that's going to be enough, and they are going to have to be able to score some kind of points. So, I'm going to pick Notre Dame. I'm going to pick Joliet Catholic.
Nope, you're down. Write it down.
Nope. I'm going Joliet Catholic over Notre Dame in this one too, Dan.
Flip-flopper. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I know. I'm sure people will weigh in and say, why do you flip-flop all the time?
Right.
Yeah.
You said Notre Dame.
Yeah. So let's move to the purple division. Some good games here. We've got the St. Viator and DePaul Prep, Dan. Another team, DePaul Prep, on the crest of maybe making it into the playoffs, and that they haven't done that in a long time, right?
Have they done it as DePaul Prep?
Maybe once since Gordon Tech to DePaul Prep, I think, but I know it's been a fairly long time.
Yeah, if at all.
Yeah, if at all. But they're 4-1, right? Now they lost to Loyola last week. Bit outmanned there. They lost 35-7. St. Viator 3-2, and they've lost 2 in a row now, Dan. And I feel like St. Viator is a team that's really got to kind of get back together here and get on track. But I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it against DePaul. What do you think?
It's two of our recent undefeateds, right? We're talking about all these purple division teams that were undefeated a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and now they all are in that time where they're doing the math, and so DePaul Prep's right there, and same. You mentioned St. Viator's lost two in a row. I haven't loved the way they lost either. I feel like I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if exposed is the right word. I feel like teams have figured out something on how to score against St. Viator, where St. Viator is having a difficult time, holding opposing offenses down.
Yeah.
I think DePaul Prep they've got a diversified offense, which makes them really dangerous. It's not like they just lean on a running back or they run a certain type of offense like a St. Ignatius. They have a very diversified offense. I think it's going to be too much for St. Viator, and I think DePaul Prep comes away with the victory here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on this one, Dan. I everything you just said is exactly what I was thinking. So I'm picking DePaul Prep over St. Viator in this game as well, even though it's at St. Viator's place. But I think St. Viator's got to find a way to rely more on others other than Cooper Komet, right? And maybe Davion Ellis on offense. And like you said, their defense seems to be struggling a little bit in stopping some of these teams that can score points. And DePaul Prep has proved that they can do that. So I'm going with DePaul on this one.
All right. So then the next game, Joe, that we move on to is St. Pat's at 2-3 host Benet, 4-1 Benet. So yeah. Purple Division had a tough week last week.
Yeah, they did. And here's another team, Dan Benet, 4-1. Knocking on the door to get a win this week, and they've got that playoff ticket, which everybody wants. So
yeah, first time in a while for Benet.
Yeah, it's been what, 4 years?
4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we might not be right with that, but you would think we'd know that one. Yeah, but they, and I don't know. The key for me is if Marty Radgowski's back. He missed
true.
last week. It's a big deal. One of the best players in the conference the first 4 weeks of the season, and a do-it-all guy. One of the do-it-all guys in this conference, and for him not to be there in a game like Mount Carmel, that really hurts Benet. So, I don't know if that's a 1 week injury, if it's longer than that, but that to me is going to be a big key. I think they're a different team on both sides of the ball with him. I watched a little film on St. Pat's, trying to get through some film on all these teams. St. Pat's is huge.
Yeah, they are
big. Wow,
they are big.
They are young and big too. They are some big people. So they want to control the football, and Benet wants to score fast. So it'll be an interesting style to see if number one, if Bennett's defense can hold up to that size. I think St. Pat's will have them in the size department, and see if Benet tries to run around them defensively and shoot gaps, that sort of thing to make it difficult. And it'll see then on the other side if St. Pat's can hold Bennett's offense down. So I think Benet comes back this week. I think they are going to be highly motivated to get that fifth victory that's eluded them the past few years. And so my pick is going to be for Benet this week, Joe. So, I just think that it's one of those where if they feel like they can score 21, they can probably hold St. Pat's.
Yeah, I think so too, Dan. I mean, St. Pat's has been shut out the last 2 weeks in a row, and maybe some of the other teams or team that we talked about as far as struggling a little bit on offense, St. Pat's definitely is doing that. We know Benet can score, and St. Pat's, has a good defense, but I think Benet has shown that they can move the ball and they can put points on the board, no matter the quality of the defense. So I'm going to go with Benet this week as well, and pick them for getting their fifth win and punching that playoff ticket, which would be awesome for them.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. That's a purple division, Dan. We've got the red, and the first game in the red is Marmion versus Marian Catholic. Marmion 3-2. They lost to Montini last week. They gave up a lot of points. I think 55 points was it?
Was it? Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise to me.
It was a surprise to me
Like I
too.
said, well, maybe there might say more about Montini's offense than Marmion's defense. You got to give credit where it's due.
Right.
We felt like Montini was due for a breakout. They had kind of a run of some tough defenses, and we're still trying to figure some things out offensively. And it seemed like they broke through. But Joe, I put a star next to this game too. I think it's going to be really really interesting. I think it's going to be one to watch. Going to be a really tight game. I know Marmion is really pushing. They would love to get that fourth win this week. They go outside of the division for the next 2 weeks after this. Finish
Right.
up with Leo. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they probably really need that fourth win. I know Marian was our pick to win this conference this division early in the year. So they probably are scrambling to get to think about how they can get to 5-2, and this certainly would help them. But I'm going to go with the home team here, Joe. I'm going to go with Marmion. I feel like
Okay.
maybe that said more about Montini than Marmion. I like the fact that it's at Marmion, and I think we may have seen Marmion's offense come alive a little bit more last week. So we've seen both these teams. I think their offenses have improved. So, but I'm gonna pick Marmion. I think it's going to be a really close game, and I think it's one of the more fun games to watch in the Catholic League this week.
Yeah, I think so too, Dan. And I did watch a little of the film of Marian Catholic and Carmel last week. One thing from a standpoint of Marian Catholic, I was encouraged at how they were able to move the ball on offense. They've been struggling a little bit over the course of the first 4 games, but last week it looks like they found a little something in their running game, and were able to move the ball. And I think they might have had almost 400 yards total offense last week, Dan, against Carmel in a losing effort, but. What that said to me was maybe they're finding something on the offensive side of the ball. We know they have a good defense, and they're traveling out to Marmion this week. But I still think I like the way Marian looked last week, and I think they're progressing here on the offensive side of the ball, which is going to make a difference this coming week. So I'm going with Marian over Marmion, Dan.
Say that 10 times fast.
Marian over Marmion. Marian over Marmion. Yeah. All right, so we differ again. Oh boy. Briefly, Dan, for those our listeners who may not know this, but De La Salle has forfeited the rest of their games, so there will not be De La Salle will not have a game this weekend. I do not know who they were scheduled to play, Dan. Do you?
Well, Leo.
So Leo must have picked up then another game, because I see on Leo's schedule that they're playing the Noble Academy this Saturday. Is that, did you see the same thing?
I didn't. I get my schedule information from the IHSA
Okay.
website, which is it's good. It might not be completely up to date, but so I don't know. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I mean, you would have thought Noble Academy may have had someone scheduled, but maybe they both had forfeits or something
Yeah,
happened.
maybe.
So it could have just worked out, and that'd be great if that's in fact true. That's awesome. I hope that's the case. I like Leo over the Noble Academy if that is the case, and that'd be great for him. So, but
Yeah,
it sucks
I
that they
agree.
can't. It's right around homecoming time, so it could be a homecoming game. I hope they have a game to play.
Yeah, me too. So if they do play this game, we know Leo started out 0-5, but we've seen things from Leo that really show that they're progressing. I like the way they play. I mean, they play hard. They've got some talent on both sides of the ball. They just, have been a little overmatched in their previous 5 games. But I think if this is a game that does take place this Saturday against the Noble Academy, who I believe is 0-5 as well, I think Leo wins this game. So they might, if that game takes place, I think Leo might get into the win column here.
Yeah, and that'd be great. And an exciting opportunity for both teams. But my pick's going to be with Leo.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Dan, last division, the white division. So what do you think? The first game here is St. Lawrence Fenwick, right?
Yeah, and there's a reason, Joe, that at the beginning of the year, when the Prognosticus was created,
right?
We both said that the white division was our favorite or most interesting to follow because just the teams in it, what it looked like, how the coaches interviewed, what they all thought going into the season. We both, I think, kind of came into that episode and we're like, wow, I have no idea how to pick this. So, but yeah. St. Lawrence, 5-0 St. Lawrence hosts Fenwick. And that's got both these games have stars this week. So I think there's really an opportunity for an upset here.
You do. All right.
I do.
What would that be? I mean, who would be upsetting who, Dan?
Well, I think you'd have to take Fenwick as the underdog here, just because St. Lawrence has, we've talked about Mount Carmel being the class of the Catholic League, but if I'm at St. Lawrence and I'm listening to our podcast and going, hey, here we are.
We're 5-0.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at us. Yeah.
So yes, I think that'd be the upset here, and I think for me it's just a flat out upset pick. I think it's just one of those where Fenwick comes in after a week off, flying high. They've been really good. I think their defense is super physical. It's going to be a great defensive game to watch. Really physical defense, and so I think this is an opportunity for Fenwick to go in and so I'm gonna pick Fenwick, but it's more, this is a gut one rather than anything else.
Okay. Yeah. You know me, Dan, I hate the weeks off, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm more of a fan, but I know you hate them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that does something to a team, especially in the middle of the season. I can see it maybe at the beginning, but I really don't like that in the middle of the season. No fault of Fenwick. They were ready to play.
Yeah.
It just so happened that, something happened here and they weren't able to. So I think St. Lawrence just is really on a roll, Dan, on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're scoring a lot of points. They're holding other teams down. I don't know. St. Lawrence may have the best defense in the Chicago Catholic League as far as points scored against.
29 points scored against them. So you think that's good?
In 5 games, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So I think their defense shows up as they normally do, or they've shown that they do from week to week. I think their offense has enough to put enough points on the board. So I'm going with Laurence in this one, Dan.
All right.
We are really differing this week.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and I like this next game, Dan, Montini and Carmel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did this one have a star next to it for you as well?
Yep, the whole white division star.
Yeah, and so tell me why you starred this game, Dad.
Well, the first thing is both teams are 3-2, right? So they both have they both need 2 more wins. They need to get 2 out of the next 4, and you really, those in-division games is where you can really make hay and build your playoff case. They both have exciting sophomore quarterbacks kind of hitting their stride. Israel Abrams and Trey Taylor, so they are both really good. They both have one dog and one, and well, I don't know if Carmel has, if we did a dog of the week for Carmel. I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think they've had a dog of the week yet. They may have had somebody in the dog pound.
In the
Dan.
dog pound. That's what I meant. So 2 dog
Yeah.
pound members, 1 dog of the week. So 2 teams that have played really hard. They've played difficult schedules to this point. They've had some tough losses. They've had some big wins. I think that Montini is hitting their stride. I've ridden the Bronco all year. I'm not getting off yet. It hasn't thrown me yet.
All right.
I'm at that point, Joe, where like you ever see when those guys are riding Broncos and they're on the side and they gotta fight their way back up. Yeah, that's where I'm at on the Bronco. So
and the clowns are getting ready for your kick in the head.
Yes. Let's send in the clowns. Yeah, he's going down. But no, I pulled myself back up. I'm staying on the Broncos, and I'm rolling with Montini here.
All right. And you said this is at Montini, right?
Yeah.
This was probably my toughest game to predict, Dan, because I like both these teams a lot. And like you mentioned, I like both their young quarterbacks. They're explosive. I felt like Montini last week really got on track from an offensive standpoint, scoring 55 points. And I think they may have found something there. And I think it's going to continue into this week. And I'm going to pick Montini as well, even though, I love Trey Taylor too and what he's been able to do for Carmel. But, this might be one of those games, Dan, that, the last bit of criteria that this game, who's the home team, puts me over the top, and that's Montini. So I'm going to go with Montini as well.
Ooh, okay. All right. I felt like you would differ with that one. In my mind's eye, I kind of thought, we're going to be different on this one. So
yeah,
all right.
I did. Went back and forth. Yeah, it's okay. I think we differed enough this week. So
yes.
Yeah. We don't want to stray too far, Dan, the two of us.
Right.
Right. So that's it, Dan. That's our games.
Okay.
That's our predictions. Prognosticus has weighed in again, and we've predicted all. Let's see, what do we got? We've got 11 games this week, right? No, actually 12. If Leo does
if the
actually
Leo game
play that
happens,
game.
Yeah.
So
we'll look for it on Friday Night Blitz.
Yes, for sure. And speaking of that, Dan, we've got Friday Night Blitz coming up on Friday. We'll be covering all the games. Everybody, that's a live episode. We stream that as well to X and to YouTube, so you can catch it in a lot of different places. But we'll be sending out the link, for people who want to join or just want to listen in as part of the audience. We'd love to have you do that. If people want to weigh in, be a correspondent as well, and give us a little more information. If you're out at a game, you can do that. You can join the podcast, or just join and chat with us if you feel like doing that. But we'd love to have people involved, especially people who love Chicago Catholic League and are out at some of the games. So, feel free to join us if you want. Any final words, Dan, as far as Friday Night Blitz and this week's games are concerned?
This week's games, Joe, one thing that touched a little bit on with IC and Benet and some injuries, you really have to start watching that, when we watch these games. We don't always have, the best way to follow the roster and who's in and who's out. Not that we'd be privy to that information anyway, but I think it starts to become a factor with some of these. We talked a lot about numbers in the summer, and if you start to lose linemen and a guy, maybe that we've not mentioned on the podcast at all, because he's maybe a lineman or something, or hasn't done, and he goes out, you can take a pretty significant step back. You've got to really try and manage that if you're one of these football teams. the injuries will start to be a factor. So
Yeah.
we will be interesting to see if there's any difference making players that are out, or if there are, like I said, guys we haven't mentioned who are out and their loss is way more significant than we've talked about on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. And, when and if that does happen, and it always does, as you know, throughout a season, especially as you get in the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, you're always dealing with, players who are nicked up in that. But, one of the things I'll say I like about that is, you find some new players and some players that kind of step up in some of the other players' absence. And, we've got some players that will follow, going forward, because they put it into a difficult situation, but in that case, they've stepped up here and have made a difference. So, that'll be something else we'll be looking out for too, Dan.
Yeah, and it'd be great with some correspondent help during the game. Like I said, we aren't going to broadcast, anything. We don't want to reveal any surprises here about injuries or anything like that. But if there's something happens during a game, or that's certainly newsworthy and something that we can talk about, this player's left the game for whatever reason, and how big of a difference that makes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, that is this episode, Dan. Another episode of our Prognosticus previews and predictions of the upcoming games. Everybody, please join us for the Friday Night Blitz coming up 9:00 on Friday. We'll cover all the scores and game updates for the Chicago Catholic League games. And let's see, what else do we got? Make sure wherever you're listening from, you like, follow, subscribe. We always like to see those little check marks, next to the different places where you can find us, whether it's social media or whether it's on, Spotify or YouTube or Apple or Odyssey or wherever you might listen from. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe us there. So
yeah, and please comment again. Remember, it makes our day. We need it this week. So
right. Need more comments.
Yes,
need more comments. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon.